Hi, Mobview Supper Clubs. We welcome you to a first session and a new year of the Supper Club season. We are delighted that 35 groups have come together to have supper clubs for the next 6 months, and that's around 300 people. So what a great time to reconnect at Mobview Church through supper clubs. We have a number of you who are first-time supper club attenders, and we hope that this is a great experience for you all. We encourage you to get to know one another, to share with one another how your lives are and that you build community. And we really want you to focus on the content that we are sharing. We'll give you some really simple questions at the end of our conversation, and we hope that you will use them for your dining discussion. So the theme that we're engaging in this year is called Reimagining Well-Being. And we are leaping off of the adult education series led by Dr. Jason Whitehead called Reimagining Well-Being. We'll be looking at 4 different areas of well-being: physical, spiritual, mental, and social, as well as the 2 introductory months that we'll be setting up.
That's right. In fact, so for this month, we're looking at that very first word, reimagining, and what that really means for us coming out of a pandemic. And you know, one of the hardest things about this pandemic was the way it just pulled us out of all of our habits and our patterns and all those things that we were used to. And one of the best things about this pandemic was that it pulled us out of some of those habits and patterns. And that's often the hardest part of the work of reimagining well-being, imagining yourself coming into a new way of being in the world. So some of that work's been done for us, whether we liked it or not. And so it's that idea of, don't waste a good crisis. This is a chance to be intentional about how we step back into the world. So that's what we want to look at. We've
talked about this image of liminal space and the metaphor of the trapeze artist letting go of one rope and looking forward to the next one, but not quite sure that the next one is coming, and that's kind of the space that we're living in as a community, as a people, as individuals, during this liminal space, a threshold of what was and what will be.
That's right. And we also talked to another way of thinking about this. For those of you who are been around for a while, you remember our series, our preaching series on Walter Brueggemann's work on time of orientation, disorientation, and new orientation. And this has certainly been a time of disorientation, but it feels like maybe it's time to imagine, hope for, dream about what that new orientation may look like. And we're not going to get to go back.
That's right. It's not reorientation. That's right. That's right. It's new orientation. Yeah. So this chance of imagining a new way of life, that this opportunity we've been given to think about who we are and what we might want to do differently going ahead, and that we actually can change. I think one of the myths, is that we can't change, so we are fixed.
Well, that's where Jason Whitehead's work on this program we've been doing on Sunday mornings has been so helpful. His first time, and we will have a link that you can watch that whole Sunday morning class if you like. He talked about the neuroplasticity that we know exists in our brains, where we used to think that, even 20 years ago, we thought at some point in your development, your brain really stopped growing and changing. And it's just not the case, that new neurons, pathways can be created through your whole life. And so if we can really trust that at whatever age, an old dog can learn new tricks, that we can be in the world coming out of this in new ways. But we have to be willing to find let's talk about hope. We have to be willing to hope.
Walter Brueggemann talks about hope and imagination, that having an imagination necessitates hope, or requires it, that they're interdependent, because how do you imagine a future if you don't use your imagination to think about what that future might be, what it could be differently? And if you don't think you can have a future, then where does hope come from?
That's right.
So this interdependence on hope and imagination.
It does require a different stance in the world. If we're approaching this next chapter of our life, personally or collectively or as a church, as if we know all the answers, we already know what to do, or if we're too controlling if we're too tight, in needing to force this, it's not going to work well. And you can't use your imagination. Imagination is open-ended. You don't know where it's going to take you.
Yeah.
So we try as leaders here at the church to be more, we were using the word attending, to be in a space where we're just attending to what is instead of trying to have an agenda that's driven, and that's a helpful way.
Forcing something, it really is, because it's cracking open. We've heard a lot I think in the recent days about what has been called the Great Resignation, where people are leaving their jobs and finding new jobs or reprioritizing their lives, and we think maybe this is an inkling that a great reimagination is happening to us as a society, because we have to reimagine what our lives have been and reassess what has actually been going on that we might want to do differently.
Yeah, I loved it. That was in your sermon a few weeks ago, and to think of that as not just I don't want to keep doing the same job, or at a kind of surface level change, that there really are some serious questions being asked for all of us, and so there's some hope in that people are digging deeper.
Yeah, really good. I think the last thing is there is no normal to which we return, and there's a danger, I think, and we think in nostalgizing the past, that it becomes something we long for when really it wasn't so great for everyone, especially. And so, again, reimagining what might be, and this is our opportunity to make different choices.
That's right. So, some questions for you to start your conversation, and take what works and leave what doesn't. But one question that we think might be helpful is to think about a time in the past when you were able to reimagine yourself and your well-being and made some changes, just to remind ourselves that, I have done that. We can do this. I have changed. I can change. So that's a helpful one. One other one would be to think about when we talk about reimagining well-being now, what comes up for you? What feels, what stirs? And maybe think about those categories, maybe mental, social, physical, and spiritual, and see if something that you want to share even tonight. Obviously, we hope that unfolds as we go through this series.
Right. And what is possible, that's our question, what is possible looking forward that was not possible before the pandemic? So what has this pandemic cracked open for you, for your family, for
sometimes just your life situation? What's changed, like literally changed in your life that's, either you've had a new job, or you're moved, or health issues, things, could be a lot of things.
Right. Yeah. So what was not possible before the pandemic that is now possible?
Yeah.
And the link will be, again, in this email, and you can watch the whole session with Dr. Jason Whitehead if you'd like. So be well and enjoy your evenings.
Have fun. Thanks.